Good morning. Sunny day. Three films to talk about today. Two big ones and one little one. I'll first. This is called Underwater. You got to feel sorry for the Walt Disney Company because they spent 73.1 billion US dollars to buy 20th Century Fox. And then they realized, well, one would like to assume they knew this when they were going into the deal, that they got, along with the cash cows of Deadpool and The Simpsons and X-Men, they got a lot of dog films. And that's because it's January and most of the big prestige films are already out or they're going to be out in the next week or so. We're going to start to see these bottom of the barrel films. And that's what this one is all about, Underwater. This was shot 3 years ago. It's only out now around the world. It all opened yesterday here in Hong Kong, opens major markets today. If you're wondering how bad boy TJ Miller was allowed to be in this movie, after he got hashtag Me Too'd out of Hollywood in 2017, it's because this was made before that happened. I didn't realize that. I saw the poster for it last week, and I said to a friend of mine, "How's T.J. Miller in a movie?" And this is how, because the movie was shot 3 years ago. Now, about this movie, barely more than 60 seconds in, all hell breaks loose on the underwater mining trench or mining station that's sitting 7 miles below the ocean surface on the Mariana Trench. And it appears that an earthquake has destroyed this mega, instantly killing all but 16 people on board. And left alive are mechanical engineer Nora, played by Kristen Stewart from, she was most recently in Charlie's Angels. There's the captain, who doesn't seem to have a name. He's Captain. Actually, I think we do see his name badge, Lucien, later on, if I remember correctly. He's played by Vincent Cassel, who people would know from Black Swan, Eastern Promises. I hear there's going to be an Eastern Promises remake. Interesting. And Juste la fin du monde, which I reviewed last year or the year before, I can't remember, Canadian film. And there's everyone's favorite guy, Smith, played by John Gallagher Jr., who was in The Miseducation of Cameron Post in the short term 12. There's comic relief Paul, played by Miller. There's research assistant and token Asian Emily, played by Jessica Henwick from TV's Game of Thrones. And there's expendable black character Rodrigo, played by Momudu Ati, Mauritian American, I think. Mauritian American. Now, with air running out, the captain determines that the group's only chance of survival is to put on bulky but high-tech deep sea diving suits and dive down another mile and then walk about a mile on the ocean floor to a satellite station where they will be able to take pods up to the surface. And off they go, but they've got company and some prehistoric aquatic variety. Now, in case you haven't realized it yet, Underwater is Alien, Under the Sea. It's Alien, and Nora is Ripley. But, as unoriginal as this story is, because even Nora, just like Ripley, strips down to her skivvies, except in Nora's case, she's wearing a very trendy sports bra. Now, to its credit, though, the jump scares are well spaced, and the sense of claustrophobia that the characters feel is palpable. So I'll give it credit for that. Now, Case 2 is, surprisingly, the best thing about this film, because all the other actors' talents are completely wasted. Now, John Jr., you're so much better than this, Why are you in garbage movies like this? I guess you gotta eat, But anyway, back to Case 2. Her angsty acting style is well suited for Nora, who we find out experienced a fairly major trauma related to water, which may lead one to wonder why, A, this company would think she'd be a good fit to spend an extended period of time on the ocean floor, and B, why she'd want to do it in the first place. But hey, there are plenty of other plot holes to consider besides this one, like what do Smith, Paul, and Rodrigo do? We actually don't know what they do. They don't do anything except, well, Paul is the comic relief, Smith is everybody's nice guy, and Rodrigo is the expendable black character. Now, why they don't take extra, let's say, why don't they take extra oxygen canisters with them on their trek? They even say right up front, we're going to water, with limited oxygen. Well, oxygen. You had 316 people on board. Presumably, you have enough oxygen for 316 people. Well, maybe not, but you probably have more than what you're taking. Or how is it there's only 5 diving suits? Forget it. Now, as derivative as this film is, it doesn't make any pretense about it being anything other than a B-grade sci-fi thriller. So if that's your thing, check it out. If it's not your thing, save your thing that will probably be good, like A Quiet Place Part 2, which is coming out in March. That's called Underwater. It is what it is. As my friend says, it's what it says on the tin. All right, next film that opened yesterday in Hong Kong is 1917. And there's a lot of talk about this one because it looks like it was shot in one take. I'll talk about that in a minute. Now, at the Golden Globe ceremony the other day, perhaps no one was more surprised by the film's 2 big wins. It won Best Picture Drama in the drama category, and it won Best Director. And I think nobody was more surprised by those wins than the film's writer and director, Sam Mendes, who we know he did Spectre and Skyfall and other things as well, but those are the most recent. Now, of course, the film has ended up on many critics' top 10 lists, not mine, but it was competing against films like Joker, The Irishman, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and, it won. So the big question is, will this awards on momentum take it to Oscar's glory in February? When is it? February the 9th or something? February the 12th? I don't even know what it is. But you know what? First it has to compete for the BAFTAs. And the BAFTA nominations came out the other day, and this film received 9 nominations. Not surprisingly, because Sam Mendes is British, so, it's a British film. Not surprised that it's going to get a lot of nominations. Take home quite a few BAFTAs before Oscars time. Now, the story, 1917, it's based on Mendes's own grandfather's war experiences, and it tells the story of a do-or-die mission involving 2 young British soldiers, Lance Corporal Tom Blake, played by Dean Charles Chaplin, who he was in Blinded by the Light, he was in Man Up, but I think most people know him as Tommen Baratheon from Game of Thrones. Little Tommen Baratheon from Game of Thrones is not so little anymore. Now, the other soldier is Lance Corporal William Schofield, played by George Mackay, or George Mackay. He's probably George Mackay, I would say, who was in Captain Fantastic. Now, these guys are tasked by their general, played by Colin Firth, to cross no man's land and deliver a message to the general who leads the 2nd Battalion, played by Benedict Cumberbatch. Their success this message may just change the fortunes of the war. Now, though the task is extremely dangerous, Blake, who's Dean Charles Chapman's character, he's highly motivated as his brother, Lieutenant Joseph Blake, played by Richard Madden, from Rocketman and also Game of Thrones and Bodyguard. He's with the Devons, and the older brother will be leading his unit of soldiers to what will be a certain death unless the younger brother and Schofield get there first. So for the next 24 hours, the young men face a barrage of obstacles and physical and psychological challenges as they make their way to their comrades. Now, ever since this film premiered on Christmas Day, now I'm going to talk about the internet has been all abuzz discussing the film's seemingly one continuous take, or depending on your perspective, some people say there's 2 takes because there is a few seconds where the image goes black. So that's a hard cut. So people say, well, it's not 1 take, it's 2 take. Okay, 1 take, 2 take doesn't really matter. It looks like it's 1 or 2 takes. but it's really some very crafty editing made to look like it. All right, so it's not one take. And I'd say Oscar-winning cinematographer Roger Deakins, who did Blade Runner 2049, he's done great work here. This is very, very impressive camera work. He puts audiences right in the trenches with these young men, experiencing, if only in a small way, the chaos, the claustrophobia, and even the soldiers must have felt back then. Now, this story plays out much like a video game. You know, one of my friends asked me last night, what do I think of it? I said, I liked it, but it's a video game. That's all it is. It's a video game. With the film's two heroes engaging in increasingly complex scenarios involving rats, rotting corpses, soldiers who couldn't hit the side of a barn with a howitzer if they tried. Didn't understand that one. A raging river, and even more as they get closer to their destination. Now, while it does make for armrest clutching viewing, and I clutched my armrests, I'd say upon post-movie reflection, it reveals a rather thin plot that's not too different from Saving Private Ryan. Except here, there are two soldiers instead of a team, and Private Ryan has been replaced by Lieutenant Blake. So I'm calling this film Saving Lieutenant Blake. Now, if you can get past the idea that Tommen Baratheon could now be a sympathetic soldier, and one of my friends couldn't, you will appreciate Chapman's performance here. But it's really Mackay in his biggest film role to date who is the film star. He becomes the audience's surrogate. Gotta stop doing that. Taking us along with him on his perilous journey. Now, in addition to Firth, Cumberbatch, and Madden, there's also Mark Strong, who was in Stockholm and Shazam and quite a few other films, and Andrew Scott, who was in Spectre and Jimmy's Hall, and he's probably known these days for TV's Fleabag. They also pop up to offer exposition and support to the young men. I tell you, it's a video game. That's all this movie is. It's a video game. Now, while 1917 will no doubt pick up more than a few awards, more awards before the film season ends, it will probably be remembered more for its technical achievement than for anything else. The story is not that great. It's really the technical achievement. So I would say certainly go see it on a big screen. Don't come away with any deep insight into the insanity of war or the camaraderie of the soldiers who fought in them. That's not what this movie's about. This is a video game. So 1917, I thought, yeah, it's okay, but that's why it's not on my top 10. I think why it's on people's top 10 is really the technical achievement. Certainly not the story. And the acting. Acting is... All right, last film is Little Women, which is apparently it's like the 7th Hollywood version. I've only seen the 1994. I don't even know that I saw the ones with June Allison and Elizabeth Taylor. Certainly didn't see the silent one once. I think there were 2 silent ones. I've only seen, as far as I know, I've only seen the 1994 version with Winona Ryder and Susan Sarandon. And now this one. Now, I would say 2019 will probably be remembered as the year of the reboot because we had Black Christmas, we had Charlie's Angels, we had Men in Black International. These were all lousy reboots. They never should have made it past the development stage. But we also got Little Women, and this one, and credit for that goes to Greta Gerwig, the screenwriter-director. Oh, she didn't write it, she wrote the screenplay. The screenwriter-director who, in her second directorial effort, her last one being Lady Bird, she breathes new life into this 151-year-old 2-volume classic by Louisa May Alcott to create something that is both old and yet very contemporary. And by the way, I just learned this the other day. Louisa May Alcott had Jewish ancestry. Didn't know that. Interesting. And she knew it too. It isn't one of these things that somebody figured this out from Ancestry.com. Apparently, she knew she had Jewish ancestry. Go figure. All right. And you never read Little Women. You never saw any of the movies. It tells the story of the March family, and in particular, their 4 teenage daughters, Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, who live in genteel poverty in American Civil War era Concord, Massachusetts. And the story follows the girls, their lives, their loves, their heartbreaks and joys as they enter womanhood. That's all I'm going to tell you about the story. That's all you need to know. Now, Gerwig's Little Women, because there's 4 of them, Little Women is apparently, so I said it's apparently the 7th Hollywood version, but there's also been stage versions, TV, animated, there's even comic books over the years as well. It seems to be the type of story that screenwriters love interpreting for each new generation. Now, she starts, but she does something very different that nobody's ever done before. She starts her story in the middle with Jo, played by Saoirse Ronan. Everybody knows Saoirse Ronan. She was in Lady Bird. She was in Brooklyn. She's wonderful. She's already grown up. So in the book, she starts as a young, I think maybe 13 or something. I can't remember. But now she's all grown up, and she's living in a boarding trying to forge a career as a published writer. Now, the story then flashes back 7 years to Concord, Jo writing revenge plays starring her sisters for the neighborhood children. And throughout the film, the story jumps back and forth in time with Gerwig using parallel incidents to build a picture of how these girls learn and grow from their experiences. And you can see an example of that in the trailer, that she does that very, very well. Now, to differentiate between the 2 time periods, the past is filmed in sunny embers, while the present is filmed, it's a palette of faded blues and grays, which no doubt is a reflection of the family's economic circumstances. Now, as with other film versions, their characters, the events, even the dialogue has been tweaked. Here, Gerwig brings Theodore Laurie Lawrence, who's played by Timothy Chalamet here. He's the March's wealthy next-door neighbor. Gerwig brings him closer, his character closer to how Alcott wrote the character. So in the book, Amy calls him Lazy Lawrence, and we see evidence of that in his character here. So for all you people who think that he and Jo belong together, and that's a spoiler because the book's 151 years old, I would say it wouldn't have worked. And certainly not with this Jo, because this Jo has far too much drive and ambition for somebody like Laurie, who really has no ambition at all. So, that's how Gerwig has changed this a little bit. Also, she's changed that Professor Bhaer, he's written as a middle-aged German in the book, and let's be honest, in 1868, a middle-aged guy was probably 35. Here he's French and he's 36. In the 1994 movie with Winona, creepy because the character's played by Gabriel Byrne, and there's quite a severe age difference between the 2 actors. Here, the age difference between Saoirse Ronan and Louis Garrel, who plays Bhaer, is not so wide, so it's not as creepy. And so that was I think some people who did see the 1994 film were a little bit taken aback by the age difference there, because he was about twice as old as her. But anyhow, she does, again, she does get together with, Jo does get together with Professor Bhaer at the end. And it makes sense in this movie because he's more of her type. But to be honest, Alcott never wanted the character to get married, never wanted Jo to get married, but she only did it as a gesture to her publisher. And I think she probably did it on purpose with Professor Bhaer rather than with Laurie, probably to piss him off a little bit, I would say, because look, even Louise May Alcott never married. So I think she probably, she's Jo is really her, or she's Jo. At least that's what everybody believes these days. And I think she probably don't get married, so she marries her off to somebody who's much older than her. But in this movie, it works because they're more in sync as characters. So in terms of personality, in terms of what they want for each other and for themselves. So it works. Now, I'd say performances all around are first rate. Ronan is fabulous. Also, Florence Pugh, who was in Midsummer, she plays Amy. She's also fabulous. And I think, I think we can expect to see Florence Pugh get an Academy Award nomination, supporting actress nomination for this role. But she's up against the woman who plays their mother in this, Laura Dern, because Laura Dern was she won a Golden Globe the other day for her turn as the divorce lawyer in Marriage Story, and that was really good. You know, she was really good in that movie. So it'd be interesting to see if the two of them are going to be up against each other. And I think if they are, probably Laura Dern would win. But I'd say Florence Pugh did a great job in this film. Now, if there is one shortcoming to the film, I'd say that some of the storylines are a little brief. They're like involving Meg, involving Father March, who's played by Bob Odenkirk. They seem a little bit rushed. But I think, you know, you got a 2-hour film. You don't want to stretch it out into 2.5 or 3 hours. So I think, all right, you know what? These are secondary stories anyways. We can cut for making them a bit rushed. But I found that, you know, sometimes I went, wait a second, because I couldn't quite remember the story. So, you know, I found there were a few things that I went, wait a second, how do we know that? You know, and so I thought, all right, you know, that's not perfect, but it's not a deal breaker. So all in all, I would say this is really a wonderful film. Really, really, she did a fabulous job on this film. And this will surely be a holiday classic for many years to come, or at least until the next adaptation comes around, probably in 20 more years. So if you're going to see anything this weekend, this is the film to see. Little Women on my screen here. Little Women, fabulous film, fabulous acting, wonderful direction, really top-notch film. So, should it have been in my top 10? Because I saw it after I did my top 10. If I would have a top 11, it would be in the top 11. Let's put it that way. It is very good. So Little Woman's the one to see. So we got Little Woman. Definitely go see it. 1917. Yeah, go see it because of the technical aspects. That's really well done. Underwater, only if you're a glutton for punishment, or if you're a Case 2 fan. Other than that, I'd say skip it. That's it for today. I have no idea what I'm doing next week. Tune in and find out, or check on my website, howard4film.com. Film.com. See ya. Have a good week.